Powered by Righteous Media.
Welcome to Independent Americans. Welcome to episode 381. I am your host, Paul Rieckhoff, and it is Tuesday, November 25th. I am coming to you from New York City, USA. I'm actually in the new headquarters of MS Now, formerly MSNBC. I finished an interview just a little while ago with Katie Tur. Maybe you saw it, but this is their new headquarters in Times Square. You can see a bit of the newsroom behind me. And I am here because it has been a wild couple of days, a wild 48 hours, as the issues that we focus on and I focus on and America's focused on have all come together. And I've been in the middle of this maelstrom that is engulfing America's military, our political debate, and our democracy. And it is most definitely something you need to focus on. So our guest today is me. I'm going to break it down and just riff off the cuff for a couple minutes here, give you a quick fire episode to get you up to speed on the latest and what I think is most important. I'm going to be your guest today as we get ready for Thanksgiving, and now is most definitely a time to stay vigilant. All right. Of course, we're going to talk about the Pentagon and Hegseth and Trump's new attack on Senator Mark Kelly and 5 other members of Congress. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But a couple of news headlines I just want to rip through that I think are very, very important and you need to track on. First of all, Ukraine. More attacks overnight. The attacks continue. Russians launched a massive attack targeting Kyiv and Odessa, 460 drones, 22 missiles, 18 people were targeted in a civilian building. At least 6 were killed and 14 injured. And there is some word that there may be a new peace deal. Zelensky has said that he's open to negotiation. They may try to get something through before American Thanksgiving. Fingers crossed for that, as long as it doesn't turn into a forced capitulation for Ukraine. And as long as Ukraine agrees to it. That's the key here, because Putin doesn't want peace. He wants Ukraine. And as Thanksgiving nears here in America, the brave Ukrainians continue to need our support now more than ever. Keep an eye on this space, of course. Starbucks workers are still on strike. The American military has not blasted a boat yet, and it's only been about 8 days now. So it's been 8 days. They haven't blasted a boat, but that doesn't mean they won't. All the pieces have been put in place. The table is set, as Tom Bowman told us last week on this show, and it's something that I don't think most Americans are watching. You could sit down for your Thanksgiving feast and get an alert on your phone finding out that Trump has launched strikes on Venezuela. So we'll keep an eye on that. And it is Tuesday. It is Tuesday. It's only Tuesday. But that means Thanksgiving is 2 days away. And it will include some very good football games, including my sister-in-law's Cowboys versus my young son's Chiefs. Cowboys versus Chiefs. And it's almost like an elimination game. Whoever loses is pretty much out of the playoffs. It's going to be a fun one. My mouth is already watering for those sweet potatoes and the cranberry sauce. I like the old school kind that comes in the can, not that fancy stuff. But now, on this Tuesday, is most definitely still, before Thanksgiving, a time to stay vigilant. All right. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. I've been saying that since this show is called Angry Americans. 5 years ago, we started it. But that's true now more than ever, and especially on what is today's top topic. All right, it's been all over the news. America's Secretary of Defense has never been a political attack dog for a president, but this one is, and this could be just the start. It's been an alarming and unacceptable politicization and political weaponization of our troops and our military by the guy I call acting Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. And Trump, along his side and with his support, continues to expand and escalate these attacks on 6 members of Congress and on Senator Mark Kelly, astronaut, Arizona senator, Navy veteran in particular. And you should be alarmed and you should be outraged because it continued this morning. Hegseth was on X, because apparently he has nothing else to do, and continued to attack Mark Kelly. And it's shameful and dangerous and ridiculous. And Kelly's been punching back. He went exclusively on Rachel Maddow last night to put his side of the story out there, which is pretty reasonable. There's no grounds whatsoever to claim he's committed sedition or treason or any other garbage bullshit that Hegseth and Trump have put out there. But what they want to do is intimidate. They want to squash free speech. And the threat against Mark Kelly is very, very important, not just because of the chilling effect he wants it to have on Mark Kelly and on members of Congress. But there are 2 million retirees in America, 2 million men and women who served our military and are now categorized as retirees in this country. So if Trump can come after Mark Kelly, he can come after any one of those 2 million retirees. I think this is a part of the story that most Americans are not tracking on, but I'll bet you military retirees are. They're worried that maybe they post something on Facebook or maybe they say something that Trump doesn't like or someone else doesn't like, that they might get dragged back into the military and active duty and stand before a UCMJ commission that wants to revoke or take away their retirement benefits, bust them down a rank, because that's what Hegseth is talking about and that's what Trump is talking about. So this is a really, really important story. I think it's the most dangerous thing that Trump has ever done because he's weaponizing the Department of Defense. Everyone has seen that he's weaponized the FBI and he's weaponized the Justice Department. That's fallen with a thud this week as the cases against James Comey and Letitia James were dismissed. But it's not just about whether or not he wins the cases. It's about whether he can intimidate people, if he can shut down free speech, if he can jam them up, if he can make their lives more threatened. Because every single person that he decides to designate as a political enemy also faces a slew of death threats. I think it's important to remember, too, that there are actually guardsmen and reservists who serve in the 119th Congress. There's almost a dozen members of Congress that are currently serving either in the Guard or Reserve and also serve in Congress. And they're Republicans and Democrats. Let me give you some examples here. Representative Sherry Biggs, Republican from South Carolina, is in the Air National Guard. Representative Vern Buchanan, Republican from Florida, in the Air National Guard. Representative Jake Ashenbloss, a Democrat from Massachusetts, is in the Marine Corps Reserve. Troy Downing from Montana, Gabe Evans from Colorado, Fitzgerald, Republican from Wisconsin, Franklin, Republican from Florida, Panetta, a Democrat from California. Republicans and Democrats continue to serve in the National Guard and Reserve. So what does it mean if they say something that Trump doesn't agree with or that Hegseth doesn't agree with? Are they going to drag them onto active duty and try to persecute them under the Uniform Code of Military Justice? That's why this is so dangerous. It's so much bigger than just Mark Kelly or one senator. And the alarming and unacceptable politicization and political weaponization of our troops has escalated and got worse just in the last few hours. I'm recording this around 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and at 2 o'clock today, Senator Alyssa Slotkin, who served in the CIA, posted something. She's one of the 6 that have been targeted. She said, last night, the FBI's counterterrorism division appeared to open an inquiry into me in response to the video that President Trump did not like. She said, the president directing the FBI to target us is exactly why we made this video in the first place. He believes in weaponizing the federal government against his perceived enemies and does not believe laws apply to him or his cabinet. He uses legal harassment as an intimidation tactic to scare people out of speaking up. This isn't just about a video. This is not the America I know, and I'm not going to let this next step from the FBI stop me from speaking up for my country and for our Constitution. That's Senator Alyssa Slotkin. Now, this is, I think, really, really important. This is the latest wrong and dangerous escalation by Trump. He's weaponizing the FBI and the DOD, the Department of Defense. I'm not calling it the Department of War because it's still technically the Department of Defense. The FBI and the Department of Defense are coming together as a kind of radical and unacceptable dual strike of intimidation to come after Trump's political adversaries and opponents. It's much bigger than just Democrat versus Republican. It's about wrong versus right. He's trying to squash free speech by calling it a threat. That's what despots do in places like Russia and North Korea. It's what Saddam Hussein used to do in Iraq. And this is why this is maybe the most dangerous thing he's done as president so far. And he's not stopping, folks. If he can do this to a U.S. senator, he can do it to anyone. And he can do it to you. Stay vigilant, people. All right, I'm going to continue to speak out about this on this show. in the days to come, in the weeks to come. Later tonight, I'll be on CNN again. I was on CNN this morning and last night. I've been on MSN, MS Now, and other networks, and I will continue to speak out and provide analysis and insight and pushback in whatever way that I can. I think it's important for folks to know that it's not just Democrats who are calling Trump and Hegseth out on this. It's independents, it's Republicans, it's anybody who really understands how egregious this act is, how egregious this new tactic is. To weaponize our Department of Defense is absolutely unacceptable in America. And I'm going to continue speaking out, so watch this space. Because I want to stick to the script that we often have in the show. There's one issue I want to pull out today that in the midst of all this other stuff is below the radar. Now, here in New York, NBC News is reporting that there are newly discovered documents that may reveal that City Hall here in New York had additional details about the toxic maelstrom that swirled around Ground Zero in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, which has now led to the deaths of thousands of first responders. More first responders have died than died on 9/11. And members of the FDNY and the Firefighters Union are demanding answers after 68 boxes of information were discovered that could provide more insight into the dust that survivors and first responders like me and so many others were exposed to in the days, weeks, and months following the attacks in the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. We've advocated for this, for 9/11 first responders on this show from the beginning. You've heard from our friend Rob Serra, the heroic firefighter from the FDNY, whose first day on the job is 9/11. We're going to keep a focus on this, even if it falls below the radar, because the idea that they had 68 boxes of information that could have provided warning, could have provided scientific data, could have helped us save lives that have already been lost is absolutely unacceptable. So there needs to be immediate accountability. We need to find out how this happened. We need to make sure there's no other boxes of information that might help save lives. For many folks, 9/11 feels like forever ago. But I think it's important as we go into Thanksgiving to remember there are still a lot of Thanksgiving tables that will have an open seat from someone they lost on 9/11 on that day or in the days that follow. Keep an eye on this and don't let it fall below your radar. All right, it is Tuesday and it's almost Thanksgiving, our time to be thankful and to give you something that will hopefully give you a smile or raise your spirits in the midst of all this dastardly and damning news. But I got something for you. I got something good.
Something good, oh, something sweet. Feel the fire, feel the
All right. My something good today is a news site-ish that maybe you've never heard of. It's called the Duffle blog. The Duffle blog is like the Onion for the military. It's very funny. It's very insightful. They post fake news stories, like real fake news stories that kind of sound like real news stories. I'm going to give you an example of some of the headlines that they posted in the last couple of days. Pentagon orders guard troops to return pay after judge rules D.C. mission unlawful. Saudi Crown Prince gifts Trump solid gold bone saw. Navy SEAL blows cover on Venezuela op, crushes SEAL's dreams of book deal. Pentagon has said U.S. has turned a corner in the war on America. And here's my favorite one. Guy who almost joined military is now enjoying a career as an ICE agent. Here's the headline from Clay Bayersdorfer. The subtitle says, he may join the military, but only after his mom gets back from Chicago. When asked why he never joined the military, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent Mike Ralston always has a new story ready. First, it was because of my girlfriend at the time. Then I thought about going to college. Then Pete Hegseth said it was too woke. And he was on Fox News last year, so he would know. And I heard you had to get in there before noon. So I waited. Then one day, I just realized I could serve my country right here at home. No basic training, no drill sergeant, no sand, just service. Now, 33, Ralston kicks in doors across Chicago as a part of President Donald Trump's Operation Midway Blitz, a mass deportation effort that's netted hundreds of immigrants and a handful of U.S. citizens. He calls it his second chance at patriotism. I've always wanted to do something that mattered, Ralston said, pulling on a pair of tactical gloves outside of an ICE field office. Now, I finally get to wear the uniform, carry a gun I had no idea how to handle like a month ago, and handcuff brown children naked in the street. I could think of nothing more American. Those close to Ralston says he talks about the military more than most people who actually serve, and his Facebook page is filled with American flags, Bible verses, and photos of himself holding large fish. His Instagram profile shows him standing in front of a black and white flag with a blue stripe through it, captioned, "Some of us still stand for something." Before ICE, Ralston spent 4 years as a bouncer at Buffalo Wild Wings in Juliet, where he lived with his mom and was, quote, seriously thinking about enlisting. This is the Duffle Blog. Big shout out to everybody at the Duffle Blog. If you've never checked it out, folks, please do. It's definitely something good. All right, wrapping up this rapid fire show that I hope kept you up to speed on what's going on. And if you haven't heard, we are daily. Subscribe, share, and follow us everywhere. We've got merchandise. You can join our Patreon community and help keep bringing this kind of conversation forward. And we are going to continue through Thanksgiving. If you haven't gone back, check out the episodes from last week with Admiral McCraven, Asha Rangappa, Tom Bowman, Kevin Barron, where we dig much deeper into the issues surrounding Senator Kelly and the other members of Congress and this egregious attack by Trump and Hegseth. It's good stuff. You can go much deeper. And check out my episode yesterday with John Thorpe, who's running for Congress in Tennessee's 7th District, a special election that not a lot of folks are focusing on. Coming up later this week, we will have new episodes. So stay tuned. Tomorrow, I'm going to kick off a 2-parter that will give you reason to be thankful. You can download it and listen to it on your drive to grandma's house or your flight, or for those of you that are working an overnight shift. Big shout out to all of you that are working over this Thanksgiving, and especially to our troops and law enforcement that are going to pull overnight shifts so the rest of us can enjoy our Thanksgiving dinner and the Chiefs versus Cowboys. But we see you and we appreciate you. Remember that our movement here is hope this holiday season. I'm going to try to give you information that will empower you, that will help you cut through the spin, and will give you a bit of positivity to take you through the holidays, because America's more divided than ever, but not here at Independent Americans. We're trying to bring people together and add light to contrast the heat. You know the deal. Light over heat, country over party, people over politics, busting up the status quo. If you enjoyed this episode with your special guest, me, please share it far and wide and invite others to declare their independence. And get ready for Thanksgiving. It's a time to be thankful. It's a time to unify. And it's a time to be nice. Be nice, folks. And stay vigilant, because eternal vigilance is the price of freedom and hope. That hope you feel around Thanksgiving, that's the oxygen of democracy. And no, you're not alone in your vigilance. We're all vigilant, and we're all in this together. Follow me on social media. Keep an eye out for more. Look out for each other. And stay vigilant, America. It's almost Thanksgiving. Almost Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble.
Powered by Righteous Media.